All right. YouTube is posting. Give it 1 minute. Facebook is posting. We are live on public access. That is channel 77 and channel 47. We are live on Facebook. Zoom just lets you know that we are recording in Zoom. And we have our in-house recording. Mayor, you are ready to call the meeting to order whenever you are ready.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Rami Rice.
Here.
Councilman Bagan.
Here.
Councilwoman Organ.
Here.
Councilman Kaplan.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Here.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Here.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by resolution number 226-2020, sending a copy to the newspapers officially designated for 2021 by way of resolution number 111-2020, filing a copy in the Township Clerk's office and posting it on the Municipal Building Bulletin Board, and the mayor hereby directs that this statement be included in the minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I think we're getting to happy summertime, hopefully. I hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend, everyone. Tonight, we have from TNEC administration, we have Dean Kaczynski, our township manager. We have Doug Roussillon, our township clerk. Clarence Barnes is back at the mothership as building maintenance worker. Ron Goodman is making everything happen as volunteer cablecaster. And we have John Shadanian from the law firm of McCusker and Selmy, Rosen, and Carvelli. The next televised council meeting will take place on Tuesday, June 22nd at 7 p.m. Please be reminded that attendance to the municipal building is still by appointment only until further notice. There will be a flag raising at Devotee Park flagpoles on June 6th at 1 p.m. for the raising of the Pride flag for Pride Month. There will also be a flag raising ceremony at Devotee Park on the flagpoles on June 19th at 10:30 a.m. for the raising of the Juneteenth flag to commemorate Juneteenth 2021. Now, I want everybody, please join me and share a round of applause for our township manager, Dean Kaczynski. He has been honored with the TNEC Rotary's Champion of Peace Award and the Cedar Lane Management Group's annual Honorable Lizette Parker Memorial Award for Civic Achievement. Well done, Dean. Well done.
Thank you so much. If weren't for the cooperation, of course, of council, the workforce, especially our residents, again, I'm only as good as the team that surrounds me. So I appreciate everyone's cooperation, patience. You know, we got through this. We'll continue to get through it. And again, had it not been for everyone's cooperation, again, it just made it so much easier for me. So I appreciate everyone's efforts. Thanks.
Okay. The council met in closed session before this meeting to discuss the following: COVID update, marijuana, personnel, special events, legal issues and or opinions on any items on the open session agenda, social media, litigation updates, Oprah, some ideas on a COVID remembrance, and we'll be talking about that in open session. And also looking at acreage to meet the requirement for PSE&G and green acres. All right. We're now down to Proclamation, Caribbean American Heritage Month. Councilmember Pagan.
Thank you, Mayor. June is Caribbean American Heritage Month, and this month
long observance promotes the rich culture and heritage of the Caribbean American people and their contribution to the United States of America and to New Jersey and to Teaneck. The Caribbean Sea has more than 700 islands, reefs, and surrounding coasts, and this is when we applaud the significance of Caribbean people and their descendants in our nation's history and culture. The United States and Caribbean nations share similar histories and legacies, and our bonds are strong because our true strength, beauty, and greatness in Teaneck lies in our diversity. Bergen County is home to more than 100,000 Caribbean Americans, and they help enrich our communities with their heritage and culture every single day. So this proclamation proudly celebrates June as Caribbean American Heritage Month in Teaneck, and I thank my colleagues on this council and our staff for making this proclamation happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, council member, and thank you for bringing it to us. I think it's important to recognize, and I see a number here in the proclamation, that the Caribbean population of the United States through the 2020 census is now at over 13 million people. So we are Piscataway Mayor CCA. I think Keith, did you put that on?
I did, Mr. Mayor. So as council is aware, the idea of community choice aggregation has been brought up quite a bit. And as I had mentioned in previous meetings, there were some issues from other towns. One of them sort of landed in our lap. The mayor of Piscataway had emailed about his town. The letter is included in the packet for those of the public to read. I'm not going to belabor his points. You can take a look at them. But one of the issues that they found was that a significant number of the people in Piscataway, after a referendum was pushed through, did not actually partake in the community choice aggregation. They opted out. And part of that is due to confusion. Part of that is the fact that third-party energy consultants seize upon the opportunity to mass market themselves. You know, I'm sure everyone in town has gotten at some point the letters from third-party suppliers saying, you know, choose us instead of PSE&G. Well, when the entire town is told that they're switching, all of a sudden every third party started sending out information. So this is, you know, the most recent of the issues, and he speaks to you know, the groups. And it's sort of a shame, because I believe, and I still believe, that the purpose and intent behind these kinds of programs is a good one. And you know, I'm certainly interested in this type of program if it can be done through the county in a wide enough base that it would be a good plan for Teaneck. I like the concept. It's just individually, this particular kind is not working out well for residents in these towns and other towns that had trouble. So I wanted to flag that and post the communication for everyone to be able to see and read on their own. And there is a was shown today a comment by the group that's putting forward the referendum pitch. So I'll try to get that. If anybody's interested, feel free to email me. I'll try to get the link for it and send that out as well.
I would also add, thanks, Keith, for posting that. I reached out to the mayor of Piscataway and had a conversation with him and our businessman and his business manager. And a couple of the other things that he brought up was the fact that his residents were very ticked off that every time this came up for renewal, they had to opt out yet again and again and again. And they weren't really sure what was going on. And then in addition, the bills that they were getting listed the aggregation portion of this thing, listed it as Piscataway Power, basically trying to imply that the township, this is the township's deal. And so the township was having a terrible time with, you know, irate phone calls on something that they never supported in the first place. The other concern that they had was that the residents were getting inundated with emails requesting PAC donations from from this group on a regular basis, using the email list that they created from doing the referendum as a way to increase their PAC dollars. So there's a lot of layers to this. Clearly, it's not working for Piscataway, and I think there's only one town in Bergen County. I think it was Glen Rock, who has this has something like this. I did ask Dean to speak with the manager down in Piscataway, because they did do something unique from just the township perspective, not the residents, but the township business, their buildings, their costs and whatever, to see whether or not we could possibly get some economies of scale that way. But clearly, Piscataway was not happy with what ultimately happened. And again, I think it was over 60% of the township did not take this plan. So something to consider. Okay. Communication, item 2, Fair Lawn, New Jersey Resolution 219/2021. I'm not sure who put that on.
I did, Mr. Mayor. Before we get to it, I just want to mention Glen Rock is the one. There are a bunch in Essex County, going back to CCA for a second, and Maplewood, which seems to get brought up here quite a bit at our council, did go and have the exact issue you were talking about. They put forward the plan. They could not get a second bidder, so they went back to PSE&G. Then they were able to get a bidder. They went back to the third-party provider, and every single time it required opt-outs to everyone in the community. And part of that ping pong back and forth is unfortunately what takes a good program and makes it very confusing for people. Regarding the Fair Lawn resolution, our clerk forwarded this. Fair Lawn put out a resolution recently against anti-Semitism, and I believe, obviously some members of the public may be aware the council put out a resolution in April. And at the time, I had absolutely no idea that events would unfold in a way that the message that I tried to convey there would be lost. And what Fair Lawn put out was a message not just about anti-Semitism, but about some of the accusations. They mention in there that it accuses Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing. It accuses Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than their own native interests. It talks about the amount of incidents of anti-Semitism and the rising accounts all over the world. And I think that it behooves us to just go back to that April resolution for a moment, because like I said, the reason that I had put it together seems to have been lost, and I just wanted to take a second to explain it. A bunch of towns around us had been raising flags to commemorate the State of Israel, which on its own is a remarkable accomplishment in that area of the world. It was a democracy in 1948 that was created and remains a democracy to this day. And that is what a lot of towns around us were celebrating, including the county in Hackensack. They do a flag raising every year in Bergenfield and various towns throughout New Jersey. And in addition to that, we had this epidemic of anti-Semitism. And I thought that since a lot of towns are raising this particular flag, as a separate issue, and we had these issues of anti-Semitism, and coupled with the idea that people are getting attacked merely for the association of support for Israel as an attack on Jews themselves, that it would be a symbol to those in town that it is not okay. It is clearly not okay that people merely walking with a symbol of Israel could be attacked by those that clearly conflate the issue with anti-Semitism. And you may have seen in the news a week or so ago, family's worst nightmare played out for two families in our town. A mom walking with her daughter found herself facing off against assailants that were shouting at her, saying they were going to, and I'm just going to mention what they said because I don't think it should be downplayed. But if you have kids, I just, want to give you a second to mute your screen. They said they were going to rape her and her daughter. They shouted, "F you Jews." And Tom Moran of the Star Ledger wrote up a piece about the harrowing ordeal. I think people should read it. But he said in part that there was a quote unquote happy ending, that a random bystander came to their aid, but the incident was part of a surge, he says, in vile anti-Semitic attacks that have followed the recent fighting between Israel and Palestinians. And it happened during the earlier flare-ups of Middle East violence. But this time it's become more common, more vicious, according to the Anti-Defamation League, that a Jewish man wearing a yarmulke was beaten in Times Square last week by a gang of men, one of whom is now charged with a hate crime. And days earlier, protesters waved Palestinian flags chanting "Death to Jews" and assaulted diners at a sushi restaurant in LA. This is, what we're seeing in society. He says the ADL found that the number of anti-Semitic incidents jumped by 63% in the 2 weeks after the recent conflict erupted, and measured against the previous 2 weeks, it was a far larger spike than during the previous spikes of violence. This is the ADL director. He said, what we're seeing now is more drastic and frankly more dangerous. This is Jonathan Greenblatt, the CEO of ADL, on PBS NewsHour. He said, we've seen people basically say, if you are, and this is a direct quote, if you are wearing a Jewish star, you must be a Zionist and you should be killed. Think about those words. The head of the Anti-Defamation League is saying that if you wear a Jewish star, to the attackers, you're a Zionist, and it's okay to, it's fine to scream at a mom and her daughter that you're going to rape them. This is where we are in 2021, and it sickens me. We've pulled together as a community when tragedy has struck before. We've had marches for BLM. We've spoken out that pride is welcome. We're honoring our legacy on Juneteenth, and we're going to have, that resolution later today. But there's a sizable portion in this town that's facing a threat, and it's a serious threat. And what I saw in April was that people were advocating to take off their Jewish stars. And I don't know about you, but I won't live like that. Anti-Semitism isn't new. It existed before 1948. It existed before Christ. And it's one of the world's oldest original sins. And when I read the words from Jonathan Greenblatt and the ADL, that we basically said, if you're wearing a Jewish star, you are a Zionist and you should be killed. It says to me that the reason that Deputy Schwartz and council chose to raise that flag is that it's symbolically tied to the Jewish people and it's ever present among us. Folks, the people at Teaneck are a smart group. We're an advanced electorate when we choose to be. And just as we know that when we put Black Lives Matter mural on the ground with the express acknowledgement that the message was Black Lives Matter, and not what the national organization stood for, so too here, we said with our resolution that the symbol the ADL spoke about, that Jewish star that was picked to go on Israel's flag as a symbol to all those that were living here, that the star should not be something you hide. It was a symbolic measure that we will not hide because of hatred. Now, I realize that some people twisted the resolution into something else. And look, I did not know that fighting would break out in Gaza, or I would have separated the two issues. That being said, council was taking a stance on the issue of anti-Semitism and promoting the idea of Israel. separately. We were not taking a stance on the fighting in Israel, and we're not taking a stance on Israel's foreign policy. While the council is always, and I hope will always, praise the existence of a democracy in the Middle East, we're not taking any positions on foreign affairs. So while I didn't think it needed to be said at the time in April, I'll state it clearly for the record now. And with that said, I hope we can pass a similar resolution that Fair Lawn passed, and speak clearly with one voice that it is not okay that people would even think that they would feel threatened for holding an Israeli flag or raising it in the town where they live.
Councilmember Kaplan, do you want to work on such a resolution?
I would be happy to.
Okay, and then if anyone else wants to work with you on it, feel free to call Councilman Kaplan and we'll get one together. Okay, thank you. Committee reports on council liaisons. Anybody have any reports?
Yes, Mr. Manager. Mr. Mayor, sorry, I apologize. The Township Planning
I
Board.
don't
had
want
a
to be
meeting,
manager. No. I don't want to be manager.
COVID's almost over. You can be manager soon. The Planning Board had a meeting last week in which we kicked off some hospital rezoning matters that began. Additionally, coming up, we have Haluba new plans coming to the forefront. The Cedar Lane Management Group had its Memorial Day event yesterday, as you know. Our meetings are coming up next month. And as it relates to historical preservation, Councilman Kaplan sat in for me in that regard. Thank you.
Any other reports? Councilman Romney Rice?
Yes, I have the Advisory Board on Community Relations. They actually met this evening and they have a number of recommendations moving towards equity and inclusion. They do have a copy of the walk the talk, and I know we're going through that process. They also would like to know if we're conducting the Teaneck Night Out this year, and if so, they'd like to have a table. There was a discussion about having an online store where people can actually purchase merchandise with Teaneck on it, kind of like a Teaneck Pride. And they would like for the township to note and put a list of pantries that are open and available on the website. I know some are still operational. Also trying to find out about the 4th of July parade, if that's going to be open for groups to participate in. And they were also interested in having Chief O'Reilly meet with them at the July meeting or perhaps September, or a representative from the Teaneck Police Department, just to discuss issues. They no longer have a representative from the Teaneck Police Department currently and would like to have a member assigned to that group. And additionally, we have the Youth Advisory Board is continuing to meet about their Stargaze, I think it's called, the Dream Catchers project. They're discussing activities over the summer, and they are in the midst of actually actively recruiting because some of their members are actually graduating out. So they are looking to be active with recruitment and also would like to participate in Teaneck Night Out if there is such an event this evening. And the Hackensack River Keepers, thank you to Doug, who has posted their cleanups along the riverside, has had an increase in people volunteering to help clean up along the riverside, and encourage folks to continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further reports from any of your liaison groups? No? Okay. So Dean, let's quickly we're doing Teaneck Night Out.
Yes, I was going to cover that in my manager's report.
Okay.
4th of July. I pretty much the majority of what Councilwoman Romney Rice mentioned, I'll bring up during my report.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Council listed items, proposed street naming, Carol Otis. Who put that on? Councilman Kaplan?
I didn't put it on, but I'm happy to speak to it from the Senior Citizen Advisory Board unless someone else wants to.
I recognize Keith, but then you can go after
I
Keith.
didn't put it on. I'm happy to let whoever put it on go first.
Councilmember Organ.
We don't know who put it on, but we're glad that it's there. The Senior Citizen Advisory Board worked very hard on this letter to honor Carol Otis, who, if you read through the letter and her bio, it seems like there was nothing she didn't touch in her lifetime. She passed in 2019, and they're looking to name a portion of Windsor Road from Woods Road to the Grayson Street Bridge to honor her.
Okay, so we have a request here for a street renaming. Councilman Kaplan?
Yeah, I worked with Carol Lotus on the Teaneck Swim Club for many years. Nothing but respect for what she's accomplished in town. Taken place, her and her husband on various times from various boards. That being said, the only issue I wanted to bring up was something that came up in the Historic Preservation Committee, and it has to do with our permanent versus temporary sign proposals. I sent around to council for their perusal the way that Jacksonville, Florida, and New Orleans, Louisiana have handled theirs. One particular issue that both had in them was that permanent signage would be limited to people that had passed after 5 years. And I think that the entire proposal is something worth looking at. I think that people like Carol Otis are eminently qualified. If we're going to do them, I think that they should be in a temporary state until we have a way to discern which ones should be permanent. And I think that the procedures that I outlined in that email go a good way to start that conversation. But I just think that it should be a temporary measure like we've done for the vast majority of the others. The one exception I could think of being Mayor Parker, until we have a policy in place.
Other comments on proposed street renaming for Carol Lotus? Councilmember Rice.
Yes, I just wanted to say that her bio was extensive, and Carol Lotus was a consummate volunteer in our community, so I don't think there's any question about her being acknowledged. But I do wish to reiterate the point about having a policy or procedure on how this is done. I think this was mentioned some time ago, a few years ago, whether it's just the establishment of who gets a street naming or whether it goes from permanence and from honorary into permanence. We should still have a policy. So,
I think I had discussed this with you, Dean, a while back in regards to how to use the current policy for this. Am I correct, or was that?
Yeah, it was discussed putting time limits, whether it's 90 days or some criteria for making it permanent.
Yeah. Do we can.
Mayor Freeze.
On a temporary.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Mayor? I think we lost you for a second.
I'm sorry?
We lost you for a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you get me now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. What I was saying is there seems to be two issues here. One is, do you feel you want to do Carol Otis the way we've done the others on the temporary 90-day basis? And if so, we can move on that one tonight. And then we can also either charge the manager, or we can put a subcommittee together to develop the other parts that would be for more permanent.
Mayor.
Yeah.
I personally think that the policy for making something permanent should be when 4 council members agree to make it permanent. and I don't think we have to sit around and come up with a policy for that. When it comes to making something temporary, we already have a very good process and procedures in place. We were going very strong. I know that Deputy Mayor Schwartz, the self-appointed head of the street naming committees, was very active for a couple of months, but then we took a cool down period. But I'm in favor of Carol Lotus as part of our temporary street signing. And, it's kind of quasi-permanent anyways. It's not permanent, but it's, till the manager gets, his resources focused on being able to take these things down.
Yeah.
For now, he's been very generous. So that's where I would like to do, is proceed with a temporary sign for Carol Otis, if that's the council's wishes, but not not start permanent status yet.
Right. That's what I was asking. Do I have 4 nodding heads for Carol Lotus for temporary? Okay, so
Yes.
we'll move ahead with doing the temporary street naming for Carol Otis under the temporary policy. Okay,
We'll draft up a resolution for consideration at the next meeting. Councilwoman Organ, we can speak more offline about it, but that big bio that we received, did that contain the details of like where they want the unveiling to be and everything, or?
Which streets? I don't know that there's a particular corner, but I can certainly reach out.
thank you.
All right, yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it offline. We'll work on it before the next meeting.
Okay, and then just a question, the elusive Mayor Paul Ostrow, are we ever naming his street? I think he's the only outstanding that we have. Do we need to tie him down?
I
to
suggest
a
that we
street
do
sign?
it the same day. They're very close to each other, or somewhat close to each other, and we bounce it 1 hour after the other. Hopefully he'll join us.
I don't know if Mr. Ostro is listening right now, but he needs to let me know about the details.
No, Mr. Mayor,
We'll
Yeah,
kidnap him.
go ahead. Hold on. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
listen, Paul is a very humble person, and he doesn't like the limelight, but he certainly has worked hard and dedicated his life for the township of Teaneck, and continues to do so in a different capacity. So I don't think that, listen, he's not objecting to the sign. He didn't object to the sign. I say we let him know the date, and hopefully he can make it, and let him invite his family, and let's move forward.
Yeah, Mayor, I speak to former Mayor Ostrow on a daily basis, on a regular basis, I should say. He's ready to move forward, wanted to wait until the better weather, and I will secure a date and we'll get it done very quickly.
Okay, all right. And then do we want us to do a subcommittee to do the longer range criteria for a permanent street renaming, or do you want to hold on that?
I'd like to hold on that. I'd like to hold on that also. Let's go on.
Okay, I have one person telling me he wants to hold. Anybody else?
2 per hold.
2 for hold.
3 for hold.
Okay. I
I'll
got
be for
3,
hold.
and there goes.
Moving on.
Okay, so we're holding. Okay, so we will move forward on that. All right. Item 2 under council listed. I had put on COVID remembrance. I'm going to let Dean talk about that in his manager's report, because we had a discussion about that in closed session, and I think he had a very good idea that we were all in favor of. So I think at this point, then we'll move right to your report, Dean.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So let's start out with the Tree of Remembrance. I think it's we discussed this, council discussed this early on during COVID, and I think the time is now that we really give it some serious consideration. What I'm proposing is, for consideration, is a Tree of Remembrance. It will not list the names of the 119 souls we lost, township residents, over the course of the year, but we'll have something nice, some sort of Tree of Remembrance on the municipal green with a bronze plaque that memorializes, again, those that we lost and that we never forget. So that's what I'm proposing, and I think it's a pretty good idea. I can put something together and work with some people to come up with the language for it and
Yeah,
dedication.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to work with the manager. And And also maybe even just revisit the concept of listing names and understand the manager's concern other than space.
Other comments? Councilman Kaplan?
Um, I know that in the 30s, we solicited help from the general public in order to get art recommendations. One of them sent in a windmill, which you may recognize from right behind Manager Kaczynski. Perhaps we can prevail to the public, who have lost these souls individually, to see if they have any suggestions in terms of how they would like this to look, and reach out to the community, perhaps artists within the community that want to share their feedback. I'd be curious to see what the community is capable of coming up with.
I certainly can put something out via the press release, via the website, of course, Nixle, and social media. And I think that's a good idea to get some input from the general public and some maybe artistic designs.
Councilman Pagan and Councilman Morgan?
Just as an FYI, the county just started planning an event to remember everyone in the county who passed away from COVID. And I know that reading all of the names is one of the things they would like to try to do, but it's in the very early stages. So as soon as I hear more, I'll share with all of you what their plans are.
Councilman Morgan?
I would just be careful with the names. I think it's invasive of privacy, and it's very new to people who are suffering, who are grieving now. And so I would be very careful with that.
I would also be careful on the names as well, because you know what? It's still around and it may be back. And we may have to add names. And we're going to have to constantly be under the gun to keep something current if we're putting names down, because this is not ended. We may have flare-ups, we may have variants. I think the idea of an overall plaque for the event that would capture our sentiments for those that we lost, I think would be appropriate. But I'd be worried about the one or the two or the three names that we don't get, or that unfortunately succumb afterwards to COVID-related concerns that we aren't aware of when we do the plaque. I don't want to leave them out. So in this way, having it without the names, we can constantly use this as a place of remembrance. That would be my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm thinking, a nice bench or two around that Tree of Remembrance as well. So we'll do it the right way. We'll come up with some good ideas and take input from the public. But I am in agreement that we should leave the names off of whatever we do. All right. Continue with the manager's report. Again, TNEC is following the trend throughout the state with minimal COVID-19 cases. Our totals are at 3,638, and we've seen an increase of 19 since the last council meeting, and that averages 0.9 daily. 5 new cases did come in over the weekend. Again, this is just a reminder. I mentioned this to council earlier, even though most restrictions have been lifted, let's continue to exercise good judgment in stopping the spread of COVID-19. To date, the CDC has told us that 51.5% of all adults across the U.S. have been vaccinated. I'm hopeful that percentage will increase. I'd like to see it get up to 70%, 75% or greater, with greater education about the effectiveness of the vaccine. Holy Name, I know, has very few cases, if any, right now. A decision is going to be made soon between myself and Mr. Marin about our point of distribution, whether we're going to keep it open or close it. Right now, I anticipate we'll keep it open until the middle to latter end of June. We're doing mostly second doses right now. Again, it's available to those ages 12 and up, the Pfizer vaccine. Even though if we do close, Holy Name will still make the vaccine available, and you can get that at the hospital. So anyone out there that is contemplating, again, there is really no wait at our point of distribution. Please go to vaccine.holyname.org to register. The Rota Center opened today without restrictions. The municipal building will open June 14th without restrictions. Anyone not feeling well, please stay home. We're waiting until June 14th for the municipal building. There's going to be a lot of construction taking place, milling, paving over the next week and a half. There's going to be sporadic closures of the municipal building. And so we want to wait until June 14th before we have the public start entering the building and pulling into the parking lot. Indoor gathering limits end on June 4th, Friday, June 4th. If you're not receiving my notices, Nixle messages, alerts, again, please visit the township's website. On the left-hand side, there is a tab that says sign up for township alerts. I encourage everyone to do that. Pool registration at Devotee Park Pool begins on June 14th. The pool will be open full-time 7 days a week, and that's beginning June 19th. I'm sorry, yes, that's correct. June 19th is when the pool will open 7 days a week. The splash pad opened yesterday. It was closed over the weekend due to the bad weather. We're going to continue to remain open on the weekends, weather permitting. And then on June 19th, the splash pad will open 7 days a week. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, as I mentioned, there's a lot of construction going on at the municipal building, including the installation of our level 2 charging station. That's going to be in place shortly. The electric is in. There's going to be 2 designated spaces, and they're going to be in the area where the municipal generator is between the library and the municipal building. There will be, I'll be proposing an ordinance to council at the next meeting that has restricted time limits and parking just for electric charging. There's going to be an hourly charge for the charging, of course. And then we're also putting in 2 designated, excuse me, 2 designated spaces for veterans, and they will be located next to the council spaces on the west side of the parking lot. We'll have nice signs that go up there as well. The Division of Local Government Services has yet to provide us guidance on a local finance notice for the use of stimulus money. We're waiting for that, and we anticipate that will come out any day now. We had a very moving Memorial Day ceremony on the Municipal Green yesterday. Many thanks to Colonel McGilchrist and our keynote speaker, who was Commander Jimmy Miller. The event was well attended, probably one of the largest crowds I've seen in a long time. Again, it's very important that we continue to honor the men and women, not only on Memorial Day, but throughout the year, who laid down their lives to preserve our freedom and enjoy what we enjoyed yesterday. Many thanks to Public Works for their service in preparing the municipal green and getting Cedar Lane ready for the street fair, which I thought was a huge success. I drove Cedar Lane early this morning, and the entire area was cleaned up to perfection, and they worked very hard and getting it ready and prepared for rush hour traffic this morning. The Cedar Lane Management Group also did an excellent job in planning and preparing for this event. We weren't sure if we were going to have it or not, but I had told them early on to make the plans, make the arrangements in hopes that the governor would relax the restrictions prior to Memorial Day. And again, I tip my hat to them for getting this done on such short notice, and I appreciate all of their efforts. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the young men and women from the Teaneck High School band who performed with excellence yesterday during the ceremony, including the trumpet player who played taps. That's always a very moving time, so I appreciate their efforts and their families that came out to support them as well. The township's 4th of July parade is going to take place on Sunday, July 4th at 9:30 a.m. This is going to be followed by the township's annual community celebration at the Rota Center, and that's taking place from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's going to be a host of activities. Everything we did in 2019, we will do in 2021. Javon, regarding any group that wants to participate in the 4th of July, again, Colonel McGilchrist is spearheading that from the Patriotic Advisory Board. you can forward the information to me. I can speak to Mr. McGilchrist as well to make sure they're included, and they have a staging area for July 4th. The milling and paving of River Road, DeGraw Avenue is complete. The entire length of Cedar Lane we anticipate doing in 2022. So looking forward to that. That road does need to be addressed. I met with some members of Senator Weinberg's staff last week to look at the path along the river that runs south of Old Newbridge Road. We're going to do a survey and we're going to try to clean up that area. The senator is going to try to secure some funding to do so. So we looked at it, and again, you really can't get to that path down there right now. So we're hoping after the survey's done and we get some funding in the state's budget for 2021 that we'll be able to clean up that area. One of the residents that spoke last week, Joyce Giddens, I met with her several times, spoke to her several times about the parking situation on Teaneck Road between Forest and Fairview Avenue. We did a couple site visits. There's an ordinance being introduced tonight. I think that addresses the concerns from the store owners and from Joyce that will allow more people to come park in front of the stores with a restricted time limit. And we'll also put a time limit parking on Fairview Avenue between Overlook and Teaneck Road. So after speaking to the business owners and Joyce, and this, I think, will tremendously help them out with getting patrons to visit their establishments and find parking a little more quicker. There's also an ordinance on tonight for additional parking on Elm Avenue. The current 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. parking restrictions will be modified to allow parking on the east side of Elm between north and a southerly property line, which is at 275 Elm with no restrictions. This is going to free up roughly 10 plus parking spaces without impacting the homeowners south of that location. I had some discussions with the police department, school, and everything is okay to relax that restriction and modify the ordinance in that location. I also directed engineering to conduct a study of this Court Street parking lot. Parking is a serious issue in that area as well. We're looking to increase parking in that area, and I think preliminarily making Court Street a one-way going east and removing the island will allow for more spaces. And possibly we're going to look at some angle parking as well. So once the engineering study is done, I'll report back to council. And that should be a project we can include in the 2022 budget, which will start getting ready sometime late August, early September. Mr. K spoke last week regarding Bennett Road, the curbing by his house. I addressed that issue with DPW. They're going to make the proper corrections in about 2 weeks. We'll have an outside contractor come in to repair the curbing. For everyone, the farmers market opens up Thursday. Please come and support the farmers market. And the police department's working on securing vendors for National Night Out. It is usually the second Tuesday in August. So they're working hard to secure the vendors, and I will update council when I get some additional information. End of report, Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
Deputy Mayor Katz.
I love that veteran parking spots. I think that's great. Do you think we can, and years ago I thought we put one in, but I don't know, maybe it disappeared. Do you think we can put one of the spots also like behind Lakeland Bank in that municipal parking lot? Just one for the veterans for Cedar Lane?
Sure, absolutely. Actually, that parking lot is on my radar to be milled and paved next year. I'm trying to do one municipal parking lot every year. Again, we're doing the entire municipal complex here now. That is a location that desperately needs to be done, a survey done. We could get some additional parking out of it, but absolutely, we can have our sign division of Public Works also compose a veteran-only parking sign and install it in a convenient location.
Any other questions for the manager? Councilmember Rice.
Yes, two things. Dean, as we start to wind down with the Voter Center, I'm sure we'll do a blast for any last ditch efforts for folks to get vaccinated at that convenient location. That was one. And then two, with the community opening up and the governor's new executive orders, is there any plan to remove some of the blockages on the streets and return our streets, for instance, West Englewood Avenue and some of the other streets where we were allowing outdoor dining? Will we be having those streets return to normalcy?
First, yes, I will. Once we make a decision on the end date for the point of distribution, I'll certainly give the public plenty of advance notice to sign up and register. Again, if for some reason they can't and the point of distribution closes, they can always go to Holy Name Hospital to get their vaccine. Regarding the governor still has the state of emergency, public health emergency in effect until that's lifted. Right now, there's no plan to make any changes to outside dining. Again, it's my goal again to continue to allow some of these restaurants that are using outside dining to thrive and get back to some sense of normalcy and to recover from the pandemic. But I don't think there's any intentions anytime soon for the governor to lift the state of emergency and public health emergency. So as long as that's in place, we'll keep the outside dining as is.
Mr. Manager?
Go ahead.
Just regarding outside dining, has there been any complaints from members of the public that are clamoring for quote unquote return? I just know that there were obviously a lot of people asking for the ability to have outside dining prior to the pandemic, hesitate to say there's any positive outcomes, but at least some people have been able to survive their businesses and others have been able to eat. But has there been a downside to this, people complaining?
I don't think so. I really, Councilman Capel, I really haven't received any negative emails about outside dining. And again, this, we did the best we can. We came up with a plan that we thought would be best for the business owners, to keep them in business, to try to get patrons to visit. And again, as long as the state of emergency is in effect, public health emergency is in effect, I think we should continue to keep outside dining.
I think you're onto something. I think you did a great job. But all right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions for the manager? Okay. Thank you, Dean. Moving on, Township Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening to everyone. Nothing to report tonight in the public session other than what was discussed during the closed session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to formal meeting items. We do not have any ordinances for adoption this evening. So at this point, we will move to good and welfare. I'll just remind the public that the good and welfare, or I should say hearing, there will be one when we move to talking about the budget. So if you want to have comments relative to the budget, you may want to hold off on that here until we get to the budget. You can do as you wish, but I'm just saying that we will have that other hearing relative to the budget in a few minutes after good and welfare. Okay.
Again, good evening, TNEC. If you don't know me by now, my name is Doug Ruscio, and your township clerk. And like our mayor just explained, we do have two public hearings after our general good and welfare. We will have a public hearing on the budget after I've been authorized by council, if they choose to allow me to read the budget by title, and the same for the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget. So just like he said, if you have comments relating to the budget, it may be most time efficient to save those for the budget public hearing. And without further ado, we will open up this good and welfare. First hand I saw was none other than Miss Sandy Silverberg. Hello, Sandy. You must unmute.
Mute, and I will share video, I think.
There she is. You have 3 minutes, Miss Silverberg.
Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the town. I thought that the event of Memorial Day on Cedar Lane was really terrific. I visited in the morning and I visited later in the afternoon. And I don't know, there was a lot of positive vibes that I got off of it. It was cheerful. And I don't know, it was a very nice event. That's number one. I also visited Mr. Carlino's Pizzeria after last month's meeting, and just wanted to see about the parking situation for myself. And I think what you're doing is terrific to make sure that those businesses can be frequented properly. I just wanted to know if anybody could update, and I apologize, I arrived a little late, so maybe you covered this. If anybody could update about the food pantry and where or how or what can happen there. And then the last comment I would make is, did somebody cry foul? Please, no to barnyard animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Silverberg. Always a pleasure. Next up, we have Alan Sohn.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir. 3 minutes.
Good evening. I'm here in Israel where people disagree on just about every topic, but they agree on at least two things: that most people should be asleep at 4 o'clock in the morning, and that no one here calls it a Star of David flag. They all want to know just who came up with that name. Let me tell you. After taking over negotiations on the Holy Name tax appeal and futzing around for years, Mark Schwartz and the hospital announced last July a deal under which the township would receive $10 million in payments over 10 years. Playing games and not getting the deal passed, Mark Schwartz snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. With the passage of Resolution 140 tonight, we lose $1 million a year in new revenue we were told would be part of a global settlement with the hospital. Back in 2018, the city of Hackensack reached an agreement with Hackensack University Medical Center, under which the hospital pays the city $4 million a year for the 6-year life of the deal, a total of $24 million. That $4 million in payments from its hospital provides a significant amount of relief to Hackensack taxpayers, but not for Teaneck. At the planning board meeting last Thursday night, Mark Schwartz played the role of used car salesman and tried to ram through a plan to allow Holy Name to build a pair of 11-story buildings, adding more than 1 million square feet of floor space to the 600,000 square feet it already occupies. Pleas from neighbors to reach an agreement for permanent deed restrictions to prevent further intrusion by the hospital into the adjoining residential neighborhood before changing the master plan were ignored. The budget to be passed tonight adds millions in spending and increases taxes by several $100,000. This very real tax increase was accomplished only by borrowing money for current payments and adding as much as $10 million in debt. Yet Mr. Schwartz will falsely claim that this is another 0% budget. Mr. Schwartz could not have done all of this damage alone. Ellie Katz has played a key role in the bungled negotiations with Holy Name. Township planner Richard Price criticized Katz and Schwartz in an email he sent to them, quote, to illustrate why I personally and our office is frustrated and exhausted by the hospital's behavior and actions, and why allowing them to get their way imperils the neighborhood, the township, and most of all, the two of you and others, the members of the council who may be tempted to go along with them, end quote. All this harm to Teaneck, all for petty personal political gain. We need a county of its residents, not one that works full time to harm taxpayers while they work to line their own pockets. Hopefully we can get an answer to these issues this evening. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Sohn. I'm now bringing in Cara de Blasio Gagliano. I hope that I pronounced that properly. Cara, feel free to unmute.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. You have 3 minutes.
I raised my hand earlier. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm sorry. I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Community Scholarship Fund of TNEC. My name is Cara de Blasio. I am one of the co-vice presidents of the Scholarship Fund, and I'm also a graduate of TNEC High School in 1999. I should say a proud graduate of TNEC. I know you spoke about Carol Otis, and everybody was really in agreement, and I understand the 90-day temporary naming of the street. And I would just urge you that when a committee is formed, and I don't really know the way all of this town stuff really works, but when a committee is formed, if you allow people from the community to join, the Community Scholarship Fund would absolutely love to be involved in any way, shape, or form, because we are doing our best to continue the legacy that Carol started and did an amazing job with for so long. So we have big shoes to fill, and we are doing our best, and we just really want to support in any way that we can. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Cara. I'm now bringing in Miss Gail Gordon. Miss Gordon, feel free to unmute. Miss Gordon, please unmute.
Hello,
Hello, Miss Gordon, you have 3 minutes.
my name is Gail Gordon, and I'm reading a section of the op-ed by Charlie Cradavell. He says, rather than disparaging local activists and environmental groups, Mayor Waller of Piscataway should work with those who are ready and eager to help the township address its most urgent public health and environmental justice issues. While it's true that the PCAEA has at times faced short-term challenges with pricing due to temporary declines in the PSE&G default rate, every other town in New Jersey that has faced similar challenges has been able to meet them head-on. Earlier this year, New Brunswick joined a cooperative of towns in Hunterdon and Mercer counties that will allow the city to continue increasing clean energy access for its residents while delivering cost savings every month. Livingston and Glenrock joined a similar cooperative of towns in Essex County to nearly double the amount of the current PSE&G rate. There's no shortage of neighboring towns for Piscataway to partner with to deliver greater savings to residents, such as Edison, Highland Park, East Brunswick, and South Brunswick are all launching similar CEA programs for the residents. Unfortunately, Mayor Waller and his administration continue to block this kind of common sense collaboration. Piscataway voters made history by initiating their own ordinance to protect public health and a safe environment by transitioning to 100% clean energy. In the light of the lessons learned during the COVID crisis, we can no longer afford to let politics get in the way of good policies that promote public health and environmental justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Gordon. I'm now bringing in Eliza G. Eliza
Hello?
G.
Right here? Okay. Hi, my name is Eliza, and I'm a resident of Teaneck. I wanted to let you know that I excitedly support the legalization of backyard chickens keeping. I hope that you will pass an ordinance that will give residents the ability to do that without a burdensome fee or strict coop regulations. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you very much. I'm now bringing in Yali. I hope I pronounced that correct. Yali?
Yes,
Hello, we have 3 minutes.
thank you very much. I'm calling this evening to, well, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself, Yali Elkin, Teaneck resident for about 16 years now. And I'm calling to lend my support to the legalization of backyard chicken keeping. It's my understanding that any sort of issues pertaining to noise, pertaining to smell, pertaining to hygiene, any other sort of nuisance issues are already covered by existing statutes. And I don't know if people have been paying attention, but today there was a ransomware attack on 20% of the United States meat processing capacity. I think that people keeping chickens in the backyard is a relatively painless and harmless way to promote a little bit of self-sufficiency in light of some of these extremely disturbing disruptions to our way of life that seem to be happening more and more. Again, with the natural gas one just a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, it is my hope that the township will pass an ordinance that will permit residents to do so, to keep chickens in their backyard without unduly onerous regulation on top of everything that's already covered in existing statutes and or excessively strict coop regulations. I thank you all for your continued work and wish everybody a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I am now bringing in, I see two Lillian Lewises. I am going to assume that it's the one and only Lillian Lewis. Miss Lillian Lewis. Please unmute Miss Lewis. All right, Miss Lewis, we're going to come back to you. Please keep your hand up. I see Paula Rogovin. I'm bringing in Miss Paula Rogovin. Please unmute Miss Rogovin.
Hi, I'm Paula Rogovin. I'm reading a section of an op-ed by Charlie Kratoville. Why is Mayor Waller afraid of clean energy? In light of the recent public statements from Mayor Brian Waller, it's time to clear the air on the Piscataway Community Energy Aggregation, the PCEA program. PCEA was created in 2019 by referendum when nearly 2/3 of the voters in the township approved a public question to create the program. Energy aggregation is a powerful and practical tool that a growing number of local governments are using to clean up air pollution and fight climate change. The PCA empowers the township to bulk purchase electricity from clean sources like solar and wind and make it available to residents at discounted rates. A similar program successfully launched in New Brunswick in 2019 and won praise from Governor Phil Murphy. The Piscataway program provides residents 3 new electricity supply options to help clean up air pollution and move the needle forward in the race to stop runaway climate catastrophe. These options are now available to all residents through their existing utility service accounts. 31% renewables, 50% renewables, and 100% renewables, and each is comparably priced to the PSE&G default supply option that offers only the state minimum of 21% renewables. Despite the popular mandate from voters, as well as the urgency of our public health and climate crisis, Mayor Waller has consistently put his own political interests before the will and best interests of Piscataway residents. Even before it was approved by voters, Mayor Waller began issuing a steady barrage of press releases, social media posts, and official township newsletters disparaging it. The latest example is his use of taxpayer-funded resources to issue a press release in an attempt to influence the outcome of similar clean energy initiatives in other New Jersey towns, cautioning them against adopting this popular common sense program. This is not only misuse of public resources, it's also a thinly veiled attempt to deflect attention from the mayor's mismanagement of the PCEA program. And if people want to sign the petition for this, they can go text 69866 Clean Energy. And I just wanted to note that Jan Berry will be speaking from the same computer, so he'll raise his hand in a few moments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raghavan. Ms. Lewis, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you, Doug.
No problem.
Good evening. I'm speaking to the entire council, even though I will be addressing the mayor. I'm speaking on behalf of the Northeast Teaneck Block Presidents Association. Mayor Dunleavy, the Northeast Teaneck Block Presidents Association Executive Board met with you a few weeks ago, and one of the ideas discussed was displaying signs in the town regarding racism. As we are very proud to say, we are a very diverse community with many races and ethnic groups that respect one another. We need to take the lead in condemning racism. Racism covers all types of discrimination. Teaneck has always been a progressive town. Looking back to 1964, when you made history by voluntarily integrating the public schools, and a few years ago, supporting mental health by proclaiming Teaneck a stigma-free town. We need to now make a declarative statement regarding racism. Mayor Dunleavy, at the meeting, you told Jackie Wilson, our president, to send you suggested language for the signs, and you would review and discuss them with council. She submitted to you the suggestions. Council, I'm going to email you the suggestions also, so you would see them. I'm going to also read the suggestions. We would like the entire community to also hear them. The suggestions are, number one, in Teaneck, racism does not reside here. Number two, racism does not reside in Teaneck. Number three, there is no room for racism in Teaneck. Number four, in Teaneck, there is no racism. There is no room for racism. And number five, welcome to Teaneck. No tolerance for racism here. We would like to hear a response tonight from each of you in council regarding a resolution to display signs against racism in our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Ms. Laverne Lightburn.
Hi.
Hello, you have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Chickens is my main thing right now. First of all, I wanted you all, I know y'all are partial to these chickens, but I wanted you all to really read and go and read about the CDC's risks and guidelines on the pros and cons of having poultry in our backyards. As someone with a respiratory concerns, I am concerned of the new transmittable diseases and other respiratory irritants due to the mold and dust and danders that chickens are constantly making in the from their feathers and their growth. They create fine dust out of building manure from their, and it's a health hazard. I want y'all to really focus on that instead of focusing on who can have it as a pet. They are not pets, because we need to have learned from our mistakes that tuberculosis, whooping cough, the common cold, most measles were all devised from jumping from animals when we decided to make them our farm animals pets, domestic. So that's my real concern. Yes, there's smell. There are predators that are constantly coming after chickens. So we will have more raccoons, more skunks, more hawks, all these things in our neighborhoods. I'm really concerned about that. But most importantly, I'm concerned about not just me, the people with breathing problems. We have to think about our health. If y'all don't think about it, I know I would be one of the ones that would sue if it was because of this. I'm just letting y'all know in advance. So moving on, I don't understand that I sent y'all a letter and not one of you council members wrote me back. At least acknowledge me. At least acknowledge my concern, especially you, Mr. Kaplan, because you said you were taking the lead on the chickens. I wanted you to see the CDC's and all the other little towns that has tried to put this in. There's a lot more to just making them your pets. But moving on, you were very passionate, and I understand why you were passionate, Mr. Kaplan, about the anti-Semitics. But my question is, isn't that ordinance, doesn't that also have to do with other hatred? Isn't it addressing, you spent so much time on anti-Semitic, but you didn't mention anything about the Asian hate has gone up, the Black Lives Matter. I just want to make sure that you have that passion also for the rest of us in the community. Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Lightburn. If your 3 minutes was up, if we missed anything, please feel free to email me. I believe you have my email, clerk@tnecnj.gov. That being said, bringing in Ben Sandler. And yes, I want to remind the public that everybody has 3 minutes. If we unfortunately have to cut you off because the 3 minutes is up and your thoughts are not done, please feel free to email me, your township clerk, Doug Roussillon, clerk@tnecnj.gov, and I will be sure to copy and paste your comments into the minutes directly. Mr. Ben Sandler, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll try to be quick. Just wanted to speak in support of the chicken proposal. A lot of us have gotten closer to nature and sourcing our own food over the last year. And I think this is a natural extension of that. And I understand the animals will be limited to your own property, so it should be less intrusive on others than dogs that allowed on everyone else's property. So again, I think this would be a great way to connect to nature. Speaking of connected to nature, I also think we all spend a lot more time outdoors, and outdoor dining is part of that. I hope that having a real downtown where you can walk around, not just park in a parking lot and walk inside a restaurant, but have a open area that can be a destination in our community. I think would be a great long-term improvement, and I hope you consider that as well. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, sir. I am bringing in a David.
Hi, good evening. My name is David Montag. I'm a resident of Teaneck, and I've spoken out in favor of the chickens before, and I'd like to do it once again. I want to let you know that I support the legalization of backyard chicken keeping, not as pets, but as a food source. I hope that you'll pass an ordinance that will give residents the ability to do that without the burdensome fees or strict coop regulations that are being proposed currently. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you very much, sir. I am bringing in Daniela Ortiz. Daniela Ortiz, feel free to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniela Ortiz, and I am the proud owner of Style and Chic Salon located on 1211 Scenic Road. So I'm here to discuss the ordinance regarding the parking. I understand that we also want to help out the fellow owners on the community that need the spaces for a certain amount of times, but we also need to keep in mind of businesses like mine and other fellow businesses that need the time a little bit longer than 15 to 20 minutes. On average, my clients take about 2 hours to 3 hours. So I would just want to know what are the different ways that we can help and accommodate our clients as well. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. Bringing in Orion Hopper. Orion Hopper, feel free to unmute.
Hi, my name is Orion Hopper. I'm a resident of Teaneck since
3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. 3 minutes, sir.
Great, thank you. My name is Orion Hopper. I have lived in Teaneck since 2002, and I'm reading another section of the op-ed by Charlie Kratovic entitled Why is Mayor Waller afraid of clean energy? After the referendum, there has been a complete lack of transparency about the program implementation, including critical errors the administration made in launching it. To date, the township has not held any public meetings on the program, nor have they solicited any public or stakeholder input on how to successfully create and manage it. In fact, Piscataway is one of only a few New Jersey towns without an environmental commission or an active green team, which are important advisory boards for facilitating public input and participation on critical local issues from energy choices and water quality to responsible development and land preservation. According to the latest rates from PSE&G, participating residents will once again save money with the Piscataway CEA program. Starting June 1st, PSE&G's rate is scheduled to jump to 13.2492, basically 13.25 cents per kilowatt hour for the first 600 kilowatt hours and 14.2174 cents per kilowatt hour for all additional electricity supply. Meanwhile, the PCEA participants will enjoy a flat rate of 13.19 cents per kilowatt hour for all of their electricity, helping families to save hard-earned money during this difficult time. Despite Mayor Waller's politicization and attempts to undermine the program, the PCEA remains a win-win for Piscataway pocketbooks and our planet. Any resident who pays an electricity bill can opt in to PCEA by going to piscatawaycea.com and clicking enroll/opt-in. In an apparent attempt to demonstrate his own green credentials, Mayor Waller recently issued a press release touting a township program to use clean energy for public buildings. This is no doubt an important initiative, but it's hard to square his support for that while he continues undermining a program to give residents similar access to clean energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ms. Raghavan, I noticed that your hand is back up, but I understand from the message that you sent me that this is Mr. Jan Berry. So Mr. Jan Berry, if you are there, good sir, please feel free to unmute.
Are we unmuted?
You're unmuted.
Okay, thank you. It's Jan Berry.
Good to hear from you, Jan.
I'm also reading sort of a concluding section of this op-ed by Charlie Kratkoville, who years ago was one of my students at Rutgers University. If Mayor Waller wants to be an environmental champion, he must stop undermining the PCEA and focus on successfully implementing it, in addition to tackling other critical issues facing the township. For example, the American Lung Association recently rated Piscataway an F on air quality. Data that was released earlier this year by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection also shows the majority of the township is classified as an environmental justice community, which is used to determine where communities of color and low income are suffering from a disproportionate burden of pollution. Unfortunately, the Waller administration has been making matters worse by granting approvals for politically connected developers to build large warehouses and trucking depots all over town, including one proposal on state protected wetlands immediately next to Randallville Elementary School. The administration is clearly not considering the serious health threats posed by diesel truck emissions and truck traffic, where there's hundreds of young children gathered at the school. When challenged on these public health and environmental justice issues, Mayor Waller has lashed out at local residents and the organizations to which they belong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Berry. I hope you are well. I'm bringing in Dr. Powers. What's up, Dr. Powers? 3 minutes.
Yes. I want to pick up on something Sandy Silverberg said in passing, but I think is important. A number of the people who do some of our most important volunteer work at the food bank discussed with me at the Memorial Day Cedar Lane event they're concerned that the food bank might actually be closed as of today. And there's no question but what the continuing need as people go through this transition that we're now going through with the pandemic, that some real clarity about the food bank and where it's going to be and how people are going to have access to it and what these volunteers will be working with is important. And I hope that the manager has an answer to that question. It's very important. I tried to work with the assessor this afternoon. The issues associated with its ownership, I know, are at the moment up in the air, but it's really important that the town not lose while we wait for the permanent place in City Hall. I also want to, this whole issue of how this town is sort of just, we never get the information we most of all need. Tonight, you will pass Resolution 140, 2021, I assume, because it says, be it resolved that the Township Council is approving the settlement of the Holy Name Properties tax appeals for the trial years 2016 through 2021. And that the Township Attorney's Office is authorized and directed to execute and file stipulations of settlement with the tax court. Obviously, there is a settlement. If in fact the council knows what that settlement is, nobody in the public does. So we can't actually give you our view of it. Mr. Sohn is almost certainly right that we are getting a much less appropriate settlement for a wildly, almost certainly appropriately expanded zone for Holy Name than we should be getting in terms of lieu of taxes. It looks as if we are going to be getting less money from Holy Name than we were getting before. And part of that is governed by the fact that the town failed to achieve a settlement with Holy Name on the financial matters when it should have done so before the new hospitalization rule came through and very much limits what it is the municipality can do in lieu of taxes in respect of the nonprofit hospitals in its place. Of course, we love Holy Name, but we also know that it takes a lot of support to keep it as the growing important health center it needs to be. And we need the Holy Name to help us get that done. And we need to know what that settlement is, about which we know nothing with the resolution as proposed.
Dr. Powers, I apologize. Your 3 minutes were up. I know you have my email, sir. Please email me to conclude your comments if you'd like. I will certainly include them in the minutes. I'm bringing in Sam DeFalco.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, Mr. Falco. You have 3 minutes.
Great, thank you. Hi, I'm Sam DeFalco with Food and Water Watch, also reading a portion of this op-ed by my colleague, Charlie Cradaville. Over the past 2 years, Mayor Waller has constantly claimed that Food and Water Watch is an outsider group that couldn't possibly represent the best interest of Piscataway residents. Here's a few facts about Food and Water Watch. We are a nonprofit organization with an office right next door to Piscataway in New Brunswick, the same place we've been for over 13 years. We have successfully worked with residents and elected officials across the state on a wide range of environmental and public health issues. We helped lead a years-long fight against a major fossil fuel pipeline through central Jersey, including a polluting compressor station proposed in Franklin Township. We worked with thousands of residents, over 50 municipal governments, including TNEX, and dozens of state legislators to defeat 2 dirty power plants in the Meadowlands. We've organized successful grassroots campaigns to protect affordable, locally owned, and democratically controlled water in Edison, Franklin Township, Trenton, and Atlantic City. Our track record of protecting clean air, affordable public water, and a safe and healthy climate future speaks for itself. Thank you, and have a nice night.
Thank you, Ms. DeFalco, sorry. And bring in Maria Castano. Hello,
Good
you're
evening. Thank you. My name is Maria Castano, and I am a resident of Teaneck. I would like to give my support to the legalization of backyard chicken keeping. We are not asking to start a farm or a zoo, just a few hens for eggs, not pets. I have taken the time, as others have, to research how this can be done responsibly, respectfully, and is already done in many towns safely without bothering any neighbors. I hope that you will pass an ordinance that will give residents interested the ability to do so without a burdensome annual fee or strict coop regulations. In addition, I'd also like to show my support for clean energy in Teaneck. I thank you for your consideration and your time.
Thank you very much, Maria. I am bringing in Eli Davidvix. Eli, feel free to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that. Good evening. My name is Eli Davidowitz. I just wanted to lend my support to legalizing chickens in Teaneck. I think overall, by any standard, it's generally a positive thing. It's educational for children, provides clean and healthy meat and eggs. And there's, I think, no reason not to allow it. It's been done successfully in New York City, other large cities, as well as small towns around us. And overall, I think it's a great thing to have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm bringing in Miss Roosevelt Sills. Mr. Roosevelt. Mr. Roosevelt, please unmute.
Hello, good evening.
There you are. 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, I would like to just thank the town for the great day out. I call it a day of coming out for Teaneck on Memorial Day observance and celebration in the Teaneck Family Festival. Such a wonderful time. But my reason today is I'm a member of the Senior Advisory Board, and we are the one that submitted the letter on Carol Otis, renaming the street in honor of Carol Otis. And I'm not going to read the whole letter, but some people downplay that she just was a teacher that teach people how to cook. But Carol Otis didn't only work in Teaneck, she worked at every level in the state. She worked at Teaneck, Bergen County level, state of New Jersey. And you look at her resume, she got the most impeccable resume of all time to anyone that you probably ever think of to read such a resume. And Carol Otis, she implemented cultural changes, team effectiveness, accountability. She's touched many lives through Teaneck, Bergen County, and the state of New Jersey. She always created a warm, friendly, inclusive, and diverse environment. She worked at a value and brought changes to many and made things better. Carol Otis was a visionary and she led by example. She had many achievements. You look at her resume from 1980, every year, she had a list of achievements that she accomplished in her lifetime from 1980 to 2019 till she passed away. But I like to say this, the day when the doctor called in Carol Otis, the family conference to tell them about her timeline of life, and she had one more day to live. They didn't know that, but that's what happened. She was on the phone with Bergen Community President of Bergen Community College. I was in the room with her with my wife. And I said, Mr. Otis, let it go. And she looked at me with the Carol Otis eyes and she said, Roosevelt, I got to do this. Even on her last breath, the days that she was leaving this world, she was still working to make things better in education for other people. She was more than just a cook. And Carol Otis was one of the finest example of a leader that we can even think of in our lifetime. And she had touched many lives throughout the Teaneck state level and Bergen County. So I hope I was not clear on the voting tonight of the council. The council have this letter and have her bow. If you please will make it clear to us that we are voting for the street renaming, whether temporary or permanent, but I hope that we'll come to some kind of criteria of whether we're gonna make things any of these streets permanent or temporary, so we can really have a clear picture who should be there permanent. And I think she should be one of the permanent ones, even though we make it temporary right now. But I would like to make it clear whether we're making her that street renamed temporary tonight, because I was not clear on how things was going, and maybe I missed something. But she wasn't.
Mr. Sills, I apologize. Your 3 minutes were up. You definitely have my email, sir. If we missed anything, please send it to me in email. I'll copy it verbatim into the minutes. However, I do want to let you know that council did agree this evening to consider a resolution at the following meeting for a resolution authorizing the street renaming for Miss Carol Otis. So that's the way the process works with the street renamings. Council discusses it, and then we got to go back and do some background groundwork, and then we consider a resolution at the following meeting. Because believe it or not, there are just some logistics to work out, but council did voice their support for it. Sorry about that, council, members and the public. Mr. Jesse Leon.
Hi, Doug. How are you?
Great. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm back with chickens again. I was super excited to see chickens on the agenda tonight. And then I read the ordinance that's proposed, and my heart sank a little bit. I'm excited that the town is considering actually bringing chickens to Teaneck, but the level of minutia in the requirements for coops and the $100 annual fee seems extremely excessive and burdensome to the average person who just wants to bring, yes, a pet and also a source of clean and available food into their lives. So I would ask that it's revised to be a broader interpretation of what a coop is. And to include the more various possibilities of coops, and also to lower the fee. I understand there needs to be some sort of administrative fee, maybe to the $15 that it is for dogs. I wanted to address Ms. Lightburn's comments directly. The CDC hasn't had any data of zoonotic illnesses from backyard chickens jumping. The jumping usually happens in larger factory operations where you have huge amounts of animals that are crammed into a small space, not the 2 or 3 chickens that somebody might have in their backyard that have plenty of room and breathing air. And the ordinances that I proposed and that the town has proposed certainly address those issues by requiring proper setbacks from other residences, as well as limiting the number of chickens that people can have to well below the carrying capacity of any particular property in Teaneck. So again, I'm just here to say I fully support the fact that you guys are at least considering chickens, and thank you for being kind of on board. I would love to see it get a little bit more free for the people, and I would recommend that you look at Harrington Park's rules. They seem to sort of cover all of the same topics that were brought up in the ordinance, but they leave it, again, a little bit more broadly open. I happen to read about 2/3 of the ordinances in Bergen County, and they all have basically just say a coop. They don't say the coop needs to have exactly this number of things per this number of birds. So I would recommend Harrington Park, which does a good job of balancing between the necessary ways to protect neighbors and the chickens even, and also allowing people to build the coop that's best for their backyard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Mayor, at this time, I see no other hands.
All right, we'll declare public session closed. We'll now start to ask for comments from the council. So I'll start with Councilman Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to say how proud I am of all of our residents and staff that made our Memorial Day event so successful, as I've done every year since we moved here. I had the honor of remembering those Teaneck residents that paid the last full measure of devotion to our country. Along with my daughter, we attended every year so far. And for those that aren't familiar with the event, I posted some video on Facebook, and heartily encourage you to come in future years if you haven't had a chance to make it. It's a very meaningful ceremony to honor those that fought and died so that we may live free. Regarding CCA, Gail Gordon and others read the op-ed I mentioned, so thankfully I don't have to deal with that at the moment. Ms. Gordon touted New Brunswick, Livingston, Glen Rock in Essex County, Highland Park, and some others. The reality of the situation is that Highland Park failed to get a bid in round one in 2020. Livingston failed to get a bid in their first round in 2018. They were successful in 2019. Maplewood got a bid in 2019, but failed to get a bid in 2020 when it expired. And then they were successful in a second round bid. New Brunswick succeeded in getting a bid in 2020, and they're scheduled to do one May 2021. I haven't heard the news, but it's certainly a mixed bag at best. And I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is a slam dunk. It's very confusing for a lot of residents. Regarding Lillian Lewis's concept for signage, it reminded me a lot of the home not for sale signs that accompanied the blockbusting era that preceded the school integration she mentioned. I like the idea. I wonder if instead of coming from council, this can be a grassroots effort that comes from the residents. I think it would be a much more powerful message, and I think that community relations might be a good way to get that out. I don't know if Councilwoman Rice would bring that to them, but I would appreciate it. Regarding Ms. Lightburn, she brought up health issues regarding backyard chickens. I certainly want to ensure there's nothing in our ordinance that would require anyone to have chickens in their yard. And I read it. I don't believe that there would be. Regarding your comments about anti-Semitism, yeah. You said I was passionate about anti-Semitism. Well, that was about the sum of where you were correct. You said I didn't mention Asian hate. You said I didn't mention Black Lives Matter. You said I want to make sure that you have passion for the rest of us. How dare you, ma'am? I had a teacher once. He said, be careful about pointing your finger because 3 of them point back at you. Here are the 3 for you. Resolution 210-2020, the Black Lives Matter resolution. We adopted on October 13th, 2020. The resolution 82-2021, declaring solidarity with Asian American, and Pacific Islanders, adopted on March 25th, 2021. The proclamation on June 2021 is Pride in the township of Teaneck, which we adopted on May 11th. And while you didn't mention it, there's one on tonight also, Resolution 145-2020, supporting the designation of Juneteenth as a state holiday, and tonight's 135-2021, authorizing the Juneteenth flag to fly in Devotee Park. I wrote every one of them. How dare you come here and say to my face, I'm not passionate about those issues? Look, resolutions aren't writing themselves. And in polite society, ma'am, if you have a problem with me, you're capable of raising it with me. But you don't want to do that. You want to come and do a hit job at good and welfare. And that says a lot more about who you are than who I am. Now, I grew up and was raised not to tout my own accomplishments. You're never going to hear me from this dais say that I wrote every one of those resolutions. But I will be damned if I didn't also grow up being told that you do not get to sling mud as a bunch of cheap shots on people. Now, I encourage you to email me. My email address is on the website, kcaplan@tnecnj.gov. If you want to have a conversation with me, let me know the date, let me know the time, and we can sit down and chat. But until you do that, I suggest you lay off telling me what my opinions are when you can ask them. Have a good day.
Thank you, Councilman Kaplan. Councilmember Organ.
Wow. I would just like to say about Councilman Kaplan that I don't think there's anybody that I've worked with in the past who does not listen to residents in town the way that he does, doesn't respond. He may not agree all the time, but he will give you the reasons why, and he will spend the time speaking to anybody, and that really wasn't fair. It wasn't nice, and it wasn't deserved. To Sergeant Major Sills, I know the clerk explained it, but at the next meeting, there'll be a resolution to name the street after Ms. Otis. Your words were beautiful, and the letter from the Senior Citizen Advisory Board was beautiful. And for Cara de Blasio Gagliano, if you could please email the clerk, we can let you know the date of the street naming so that you don't miss it. And the Community Scholarship Fund can come. To Ms. Lewis, it's not clear. You sent us the names, the wording that you'd like for the sign, but if you could send us the thought behind it, where you'd like them to be posted, maybe if you could just send a letter so that we know what the intent is. To all the chicken people, I'm still worried about the predators, and I've got an 11-pound dog who goes in the backyard, and I'm worried about hawks. And, it seems to me that there's going to be a lot of work for the health department. And so while your dog is in your home, your chickens are in your backyard. And I don't know that I agree with you about the fee, about lightening the fee and the regulations, but I thank everybody for coming up and speaking for them. And to Mr. Davidowitz, no meat, just chickens, just eggs, no meat. We're not doing that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Organ. Councilmember Rice.
Mute.
Thank you.
There you go.
So I always want to say thank you to all the community residents who come out and participate in our meetings and share their concerns as we work to create a better Teaneck. With regard to the chickens, I hope there's some way we can closely monitor this ordinance. While there is lots of support for it, there is concern. So I hope that it's something that we will continuously, with our health department, monitor closely. I did want to mention that a communication was included in our meeting tonight, Resolution 219-2021, condemning the rise of anti-Semitism, adopted by the Borough of Fair Lawn, their mayor and council on May 25th. It cites the 2020 bias report from the Attorney General as having 298 incidents, and that was actually a 14% decrease from 2019. While there's no need to participate in Oppression Olympics, that same report mentioned 682 incidents of hate crimes against Blacks, and that was an increase of 84% from 2019. Hate has no home here, period. We as a community condemn hate, and I think with reference to the signs that Ms. Lewis stated, and I think Mr. Kaplan made a great point that the community perhaps working with our community relations, because they do want to continue the work on the walk the talk, and that could be part of that project because they did want to have a community project. In an inclusive community, we need to provide opportunities to build and unite us rather than divide us. And we need to make sure that we do that justly and equitably. And hate has no home in Teaneck, period. And I'd also like to mention that just yesterday, the Memorial Day, we had a wonderful patriotic observation, thanks to our Patriotic Observation Advisory Board, Dean, Doug, and all the township municipal staff. We had a great opportunity to honor those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. And then we had a wonderful time on Cedar Lane, communing together, and we need so much more of these opportunities. I want to mention also that yesterday was the 100th anniversary of Black Wall Street, the massacre in the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's an often silenced event, but it marks one of the single worst incidents of racial violence in American history. Again, I want to reiterate, when we condemn hate, we must condemn all hate. On this June 1st, we celebrate Pride Month, and I want to celebrate all God's people under the rainbow and recognize the many activists who brought forth and continue to fight for equity. On June 8th, we have a Democratic primary. Don't forget to vote. And voting is available in person if you didn't already receive your mail-in ballot. Today was the last day to do mail-in. Drop boxes are located outside of the municipal building, and polls are open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. That concludes my report, my statement.
Thank you, Councilmember Rice. Councilmember Pagan.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank our residents for expressing their opinions tonight. And I just want to let parents know that the United States Department of Agriculture recently announced a nationwide extension of several waivers that allow children to continue to receive free nutritious meals this summer when schools are out of session. These extensions are now available through September 30th, and these meals are available to every child in New Jersey. If you'd like to learn more about the locations, dates, and times that these meals are being provided by participating schools, please visit the USDA website at www.usda.gov and click on the Food and Nutrition tab. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my time.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I'll make it brief. Two things. We've heard a few comments over the last few meetings about the food pantry, which is in a private building, which apparently I think was sold on June 1st. We're obviously this is a private situation, but I would have no problem getting involved if anyone has information as to perhaps who the new owner is. I'm not sure if the town does. I haven't been able to see anything, but I'll gladly go down there or try to get a hold of the new owner. I highly doubt that they're instantly doing work in the property, and therefore the food pantry can't stay for a few months. But again, I have no problem reaching out. I think the letters for them to move out were customary when a property is sold, but I could be wrong. So if someone has the information, please get it to me and I will gladly submit that. As far as the comments about the hospital settlement, that has nothing to do with the hospital negotiations at hand. I'm sure our attorney perhaps will explain that matter. But I also wish former council member Son a safe trip in Israel. I hope he does get some sleep there. His son is running a great program in Israel. It's a program that we featured on the cover page of the Jewish Link, which I'm the proud publisher of. It's a great program. I know a lot of his students, and I'm sure Mr. Son is very proud of him like we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Schwartz. Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes, as far as the pantry, well, I absolutely appreciate Deputy Mayor Schwartz's comments, and hopefully we could get him involved. Dean, myself, and Roz are aggressively looking for an additional location or just a temporary location. We might have a hot lead that we got today. We have a meeting on Thursday morning, so stay tuned. But Dean reminds me every morning how important it is to find a location for the pantry. As far as Councilman Kaplan, I have to tell you, while I don't agree with many of his financial positions, there is nobody or very few people that care more about social justice issues and the rights of everybody than Councilman Kaplan. And I'm bothered by all the comments, but unfortunately in public life and unfortunately in politics, it's become the norm to sling mud rather than have dialogue and communication. And I like that line that you said, that it talks more about you than it does about me. Although I don't want to say that I'm Ms. Lightburn, because I'm a fan of hers and been a fan of hers for many, many years. She doesn't hold back on anything, but she's a good-hearted person. But like I said, Mr. Kaplan is a gem, and we're fortunate to have you putting together all of these resolutions that many people don't know you did. As far as the chickens, I got a call from my friend Gal, and she said I have to support the chickens, and I am a big supporter. I feel that it's really an unknown, and I feel why we should try, see how it goes, and then adopt and adapt, rather than trying to shut it down because it's so far-fetched or we're not so familiar with this concept. And who knows, we may all be surprised. So I'm prepared tonight to support the chickens, and that's it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Katz. I just have a few things. First off, yes, I'm aware of this meeting tomorrow regarding the food pantry. I think it looks very positive. And I hope we'll be able to report very soon that we will have a place for the food pantry here in town, because yes, it is extremely important. I want to thank Colonel McGilchrist and the whole group that put together the Memorial Day ceremony and observance. It was wonderful, and this is the second year I've been able to speak there, and it's a very high honor, and I spent a lot of time on my comments because I think it's such an important thing to do for our township. So I thank you, Colonel, and I thank everybody involved. In terms of the aggregation thing, in light of that article and others, I decided to call the mayor of Piscataway and had a little conversation with him. And one of the things that he complained about was the fact that, well, maybe 60% voted for it, but 60% also opted out. And very few people took the 50% or the 100%. And they are getting phone calls constantly in their township offices about why did you do this to us, when their council really took no stand on it at all and allowed the people to make their decision. He also mentioned to me that the way the bill is written down there, that the aggregation piece comes out and it says Piscataway Power. So now people in his town thinks that's the town of Piscataway, and it isn't. It's this other company. And then also, he's getting complaints from his residents because this group is soliciting them for PAC money for their PAC, federal PAC, and using the list that they used to get the referendum done in order to solicit funds from them. So there are a lot of different things involved in this that I think we have to take serious consideration as to whether or not our township in particular and the people of this town get the full understanding. It's not just sustainable sources of energy that's going on here. It's much more complicated than that. Ms. Lewis, yes, I did have that conversation with the Northeast Block Association presidents. And I have been discussing with a couple of the council members about signs. But what struck me in all of this evening is that, you know what? Signs mean nothing. Signs mean nothing when we have situations where we label groups or assume groups are such and such. You know what? Anti-Semitism is racism. Racism is anti-Semitism. Okay? Hate against Muslims is hate against Muslims. That's racism. Okay? You can go down the line and the number of people that have had problems. And right now, obviously, the anti-Semitism is very high. Okay? But also our Asian population, our Latino population, all of them are reporting around the country different attacks on them in different ways. We can't speak about one. We have to speak about us all. If we don't do that, then you know what? The bad guys win. The bad guys win. Because if someone attacks a Jewish person or a Black person in this town, they attack the town. They attack us all. And we have to stand as one against that. We have to stop talking about me too. You gave this group something, you got to give me something. No, we're all Teanekians. And we have to come from the basis of we all respect each other and we all respect our diversity. And we want it to work here, unlike everywhere else. We always say that, yet we get caught up in the moment. So we're gonna be talking about other things, and the advisory board on community relations is going to be critical, okay? But we're going to be talking about other things going forward, about commonalities, because we can all list the differences, okay? But we have to live within the commonalities if this is going to work. And so I understand you want the signs. I want signs, okay? Everybody wants signs, all right? But what I also want is a town that walks the talk. That's what I want. And we're not going to get it by individual symbolism. We need to have a commonality. So please, let's start to think along those lines. And we'll follow up, Ms. Lewis, but that's my philosophy here. And I think that's certainly Councilman Kaplan's, I believe. And I think it's probably shaking head yes of all my colleagues on this council. That's what we want. That's what we want. And that's what we're going to work for. Okay? And finally, in terms of the Holy Name Settlement, there are a couple of elements to it, and Deputy Mayor Schwartz had commented, I think, very briefly and yet eloquently on the fact that this is not really what that thing is, because there's the other thing going on. So I'm going to ask our attorney, Mr. Shadanian, if he could explain, especially, I think it's the last whereas, perhaps some people didn't read it. If you could just explain to them what exactly this is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everyone. So there are, there were some comments made regarding Holy Name Hospital and a resolution that's on the agenda tonight. And just so for anyone who's watching and in the public, the resolution that's on tonight has nothing to do with any projects at Holy Name or anything at Holy Name with respect to anything other than their tax appeals and the fact that the state passed a law very recently that said that all not-for-profit hospitals have to make a payment to the municipalities in which they reside. It's a fixed payment per day, per number of licensed beds in each hospital. And as a result of that new law, which was literally passed probably 90 days ago or less, there was a recognition by Holy Name's tax appeal attorney. Her name is Susan Feeney. She's a former state bar president. You can look her up. And by my office, that the tax appeals are essentially moot at this point, meaning there were appeals that were filed by Holy Name regarding properties that they owned that they were contesting shouldn't be taxed. And there were appeals by the township regarding properties that we believed shouldn't be taxed that Holy Name was claiming were not for profit. And if anyone took the time who made their complaints tonight or made their complaints known, and the fact that that former Councilman Sohn and Dr. Powers were trying to take the council to task over this, and that Dr. Powers especially made comments that the public was not aware of what's the settlement is, it's just factually incorrect, disingenuous, not truthful. If you look at the last whereas paragraph in the resolution and you take the time to read the resolutions, which we take the time to prepare. So if you're going to criticize them, we would hope that you would at least take the time to read them. The last whereas clause says that whereas in light of the statutory citation that I just mentioned, the parties have mutually agreed to withdraw without prejudice all pending tax appeals respecting the Holy Name properties. All pending tax appeals are withdrawn. That means by the parties, by Holy Name, and by the township. Now, there is a proviso in there because there is a challenge to that statute that I just mentioned was passed. If perchance that statute is appealed properly and the people that are appealing it win, the tax appeals will go back into play because the township doesn't want to lose its ability, and neither does Holy Name, to challenge what's going on. But assuming that that doesn't happen, and I'm not going to weigh in on whether I think it will or will not, but assuming that it doesn't happen, then all tax appeals with Holy Name are withdrawn with prejudice. There is no settlement. There's no money going to either the town or the Holy Name as part of the tax appeals, with the exception of the new statute in which the town will be receiving, as I indicated, for this year, $3 per day per licensed bed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. And thank everybody for being involved in all of this. It's been a hard one. I can tell you, being on the hospital side of the industry, it has been a roller coaster ride. The hospitals, I can tell you, are not particularly happy with this law, but it is what it is, and I think the township did the best that they possibly could. And going forward, they're going to continue to, providing that this lawsuit does not undo this law. So thank you again. All right. We're going to move on now to authorizing clerk to read the 2021 municipal budget by title only. Do I have a motion to move 131, 2021?
Motion Schwartz.
Second.
Second, okay. Then we have to vote. Doug, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Rami Rice.
Abstain.
Councilman Began.
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ.
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yeah, this is the 0% increase budget.
This is actually just to allow the township clerk to read it by title.
Yeah, this is the real one, Ellie.
Go ahead. The real 0, right? By
The
title.
real one.
Okay. Got it.
Mayor Dunleavy?
Yes.
Was that a yes, Deputy Mayor Katz? I apologize.
I'm excited to hear you read it.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Yes.
All right.
I actually thought that was about the chickens. So yes,
Oh.
my answer.
All right, you got it, Councilwoman. All right.
Okay. So now we open up a hearing.
I need to read it by title first, Mayor.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
2021 municipal budget.
Well done. Well done. Okay, we'll open up a public hearing now on the 2021 municipal budget as introduced.
And again, this is just for the municipal budget. Good neighbors of Teaneck, members of the public, these are comments just for the municipal budget. You have 3 minutes. And again, if I miss your comment or if you aren't able to fit all of your comments in the 3 minutes that are allotted, please send it to clerk@teanecknj.gov and I will be sure to include it in the minutes. Mr. Howard Rose, Mr. John Moscow, I apologize that your hands were not seen when we were in typical good and welfare. There are a lot of hands that go up and sometimes people put their hands up and then they don't stay up. So again, I want to remind everyone as we're opening up another good and welfare, when you raise your hand, make sure the hand is staying up so your township clerk can see it. Again, I apologize to those two. I hope to see you at the June 22nd meeting. And again, public hearing is open now, again, just for the municipal budget, the 2021 municipal budget. You have 3 minutes. Dr. Charles Powers, bringing him in. Dr. Powers. You there, sir?
Yes, I'm confused. Not because I haven't read it, because I'm not quite sure where it is that what appears on sheet 40 of the budget. It says that the entire discussion of capital budget and capital improvement program is put here to suggest what it is that the town is actually doing, but in order to actually implement anything that's in the capital improvement section must be carried forward in a separate ordinance. I'm trying to relate that to what it is that's said about the open space recreation farmland. And once again, we have a budget that doesn't actually connect to anything that we do. For example, under what we had said in 2020 is we were going to spend $1.708 million, and we spent $122,000, and we're going to in 21 spend the same amount as we did in 20, except we only spent $122,000 previously, and we spent $114,000 of the 122 for something called other expenses under development of lands and recreation and conservation. Could someone please explain whether or not what you are doing tonight, in your view, authorizes the expenditure from the most fund without additional action by the council? Because as you well know, the referendum said that in order for you to make such expenditures, you had to take concrete action. And if this is concrete action, I only point out to you that what you are doing is so dramatically out of kilter with what you say you're going to do that it doesn't really represent any kind of clarity at all about how you're going to use the funds that we voluntarily gave to you for open space and recreation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Mayor, I don't see any other hands.
Okay, then we will close the budget portion of good and welfare. Does anyone on council have any comments they want to make?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to introduce the budget for 2021.
Second. This is to adopt, Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Sorry, adopt. I apologize.
Second.
Second.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask, was there any answer to Dr. Powers' questions?
I have none.
Did you want to
Well,
answer him?
I think there's an age-old issue with how we post a fund money activity, because this is actually not in the budget, it's a separate fund. Okay, and I think these questions are asked almost every year. And I'll try my best, and if I totally mess it up, I think Isa is here to correct me. But basically, the numbers that are in there are somewhat placeholder in nature. The concept about having to do other resolutions to spend this money is correct, because the manager has to come back to this council with every single project which is actually going to be spending money on. So that's what I believe that's what that line in there means. The most budget is a completely separate account. It has nothing to do with the operating budget of this town. And as I say, things are put in there relative to the activities of most budgets. So yes, is there some labor associated with it? Yes, there may be some other things associated with the activity that the most budget is paying for. So Isa, if you could correct me if I'm totally off base, can we get Isa in? Is he there?
Yes, I'm on. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Your explanation was very apropos and accurate. Nothing more to add other than that. It was very well succinctly put.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments? All right. Hearing none. I need a motion.
I think we had a first from Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Yeah.
There were a few seconds.
I had the second.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're good already? Okay. All right. So that's on 1/32/2021, right?
Yes, indeed. I will call the roll. Councilwoman Rami Rice,
Yes.
Councilman Bagan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz,
Yes to 7 zeros.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes to 7 zeros.
Mayor Dunleavy,
Yes to the 0.49 that we have.
2021 municipal budget.
0.49.
Yeah.
2021 municipal budget adopted. Publications going out.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the township clerk to read the 2021 Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget by title.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Rami Rice,
Yes.
Councilman Bagan,
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan, sorry.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz.
Yes.
You skipped me.
Councilwoman Organ.
I'm sorry. I'm like taking notes. Councilwoman Organ.
Yes.
Sorry. Deputy Mayor Katz.
Yes.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Yes. All right. We will now open this up for a public hearing.
Mayor, I'm sorry. I need to read it by title into the record.
Oh, I did it again to you. I'm so sorry. I'm stepping on your parade tonight, Doug. I'm sorry.
I wore the budget brown suit. 2021 Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget.
Now we will have any public comment related to only the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget.
Again, members of the public, this is not for the municipal budget that has been adopted. This is strictly for the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget, which is something that the township does every year. And Dean and/or Isa and/or our attorney, Mr. John Shadanian, could confirm if I am incorrect, but I believe that this does not necessarily affect our municipal budget. Is that correct?
That is correct.
The pass-through.
Again, any comments on the Cedar Lane Special Improvement District budget? We are taking them now.
I see none, Doug, so we're going to close the.
You got it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2021 Cedar Lane Special Improvement District. budget.
Second,
Second,
call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Rami Rice,
yes.
Councilman Began,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes.
Mayor Dunleavy.
Yes.
Adopted.
All right. We'll move on to consent agenda. And Doug, I will not step on you as you read the amount of the bill list.
The bill list, the consent agenda, including the bill list this evening with the grand total of $1,161,681.31. Do we have a first?
So moved, Schwartz.
So moved. We have a second.
Second.
Okay. I'll ask for any polls at this point. Seeing none. I'll ask for a motion
Wait,
to
I'm
approve.
sorry. Never mind, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Then I'll ask for a motion to approve the bill list. Raffles, minutes, and resolutions 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, and 154.
And 155, Mayor, which that was added later on this afternoon, which was to authorize the estimation and submission of tax bills for 2021. This is something that the township has gotten in the habit of doing, try to give the taxpayers just a bit of a heads up.
Yep. Okay.
Councilwoman Rami Rice,
Yes, with an abstention on the bills list?
Councilman Began,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Schwartz,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes, with an abstention on the bills list and resolutions 137 to 153, 155. Resolutions 137 all the way down, including all till 155.
137 to 155. You are abstaining.
Not just those two, everything in between.
Yes. 137 all the way down to 155. Deputy Mayor Katz is an abstain.
And
Mayor
the bills.
Dunleavy,
Yes.
consent agenda adopted.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to introduction of ordinances. Clerk, could you read the titles, please?
With pleasure, sir. We are introducing this evening 3 separate ordinances. First up, we have ordinance 16-2021, amending chapter 6, animals and fowl, and schedule 3, fees and charges of chapter 2 of the Teaneck Township Code pertaining to the keeping of chicken hens in the township of Teaneck. Ordinance number 17-2021, amending section 36-19 between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. of Division 2, prohibited parking of Article 2, parking of chapter 36, traffic of the Township Code, to delete therefrom a portion of Elm Avenue. And last but not least, we have ordinance number 18-2021, amending section 36-21, time limited parking to Division 3, limited parking of Article 2, parking of chapter 36, traffic of the Township Code, respecting to time limited parking on the east side of Teaneck Road and north side of Fairview Avenue.
Can I hear a motion to move ordinance number 16, 2021, number 17, 2021, and number 18, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right, clerk, read the call, please.
Councilwoman Rami Rice,
An abstention on the chickens and yes on everything else.
all right, abstaining. That was on the chickens. 16. Okay. Councilman Began,
Yes.
Councilwoman Organ,
Yes.
Councilman Kaplan,
Yes, and I'd like the Elm Avenue ordinance to be sent to the people on Elm Avenue that live in that section.
I'm just making a note. I'm sorry.
It's just a couple houses.
Yeah, you got it. That was Councilman Kaplan. Deputy Mayor Schwartz,
Abstention on 16, yes on 17 and 18.
Councilman Kaplan, I apologize. That was a yes on all of them?
Yes.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Katz,
Yes, especially yes on the chickens.
Mayor Dunleavy,
Yes.
Ordinance is introduced.
Seeing no further agenda items, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Everyone, have a great night.
Good night.
Be good.
Aye.